What are some of the most dangerous hobbies people have? Cave diving is pretty dangerous. Not much is allowed to go wrong when you are hundreds of meters deep and kilometers of cave to swim until you are out of the cave. Even breathing too quickly is dangerous at those depths. Still haunted by the guy who squeezed himself through a narrow passage thinking it opened up but actually led to a dead end. In the end they couldn't get him out, so literally just had to leave him to die. Nutty Putty Cave. It will never not be nightmare fuel. https://n.m.wiki.org/wiki/nutty_putty_cave. The most comforting fact about caves is that you never have to go anywhere near them. Wingsuit flying. Estimated 1 death for every 500 flights. Wingsuiting on its own wouldn't be so bad if people just did it like skydiving. But the people doing it tend to be adrenaline addicts that have graduated beyond skydiving and into base jumping, and want something even more sketchy than that. So they start trying to shoot gaps between rocks and bridge supports and shit. Dean Potter doing the close flights until he didn't. I worked for a little while sewing wingsuits. I stopped because the guy who hired me lost 3 friends in an accident one weekend. I didn't want to hear about someone dying in a suit I made, so that was it for me. As a nurse, 2 things come to mind. 1. Woodworking/turning. 2. Sticking things up the butt that aren't made to go there. Former nurse here. Wildest thing someone stuck up his butt was a Matryoshka figurine. The CT scans made it look like he was giving birth to something through his anus. I'm sorry, but that's a funny image in my head since I imagined it with a full set of dolls inside each other's and inside him. He is one with the dolls. As a radiologist, number 1 is why I got a saw stop. I've seen way too many table saw injury x-rays. My other equipment could hurt me, but nothing can maim you quite as badly and quickly as a table saw. I got the trifecta here. Cave diver, motorcyclist, and up until recently, flew helicopters for a living. Your life expectancy gotta be in the negatives. I made it to 35, played around with trad climbing for a bit along the way, but I didn't feel comfortable with how much residual risk was impossible to mitigate away. Risk of death or injury is insane in that sport. I didn't know ghosts could comment on Reddit. Climbing tall buildings or parkouring across tall buildings. I immediately think any sport that can be done on the ground/safely but is only impressive because it's now been made deadly is stupid. It's not like you can only do those moves 10 stories in the air. It shouldn't be impressive just because you might die. Check out Chase Tag on YouTube. Way more entertaining use of parkour than watching people jump across rooftops. Mustang wanted intensifies. The one where people use electricity to make wood-burned Lichtenberg figures. It's insanely dangerous and many people have died or lost limbs to it. Fucking around with electricity is always a bad idea. What I hate about this is that everything related to fractal burning gets downvoted nowadays. There are ways to do it safely, for example, by simply using 2-hand control and using chicken sticks. Yesterday I posted about a knife I made that has a fractal burned handle. Not much later a guy commented asking how many people have died fractal burning. To which I reply with what causes the deaths and how they can be prevented. Guess what? Downvoted. For anyone wondering, most people just rip apart a microwave, grab the transformer, wire it to a plug it in and start burning. That's a great way to die. Why? 1. Microwaves have a capacitor in them, one big enough to potentially kill you before you hit the floor when they're charged. Always make sure they're discharged. 2. Using a permanent plug or a simple switch. Many have died because they simply forgot to unplug it/turn it off. 3. Exposed transformer. It's not that hard to build a box. 4. Doing it alone. You can't save yourself once you grab hold of the live wires. If you want to do it safely, I recommend using a neon sign transformer. Build a box for it, with 2 high voltage rated wires coming out, with the ends attached to chicken sticks. Have the input cable go straight to another box, one that has 2 buttons that can only be operated with both hands, both protected from accidental activation. Wire the plug to this box. Anne Reardon did a very well-informed video about this. She mentioned that a guy did it and he died before he even hit the ground. Yikes. And then YouTube took down her video for being dangerous while still leaving videos teaching people how to do it. She got it back up eventually, but WTF. Drag racing on public streets. My dumbass read that and instantly thought RuPaul's Drag Race, just having drag pageants in the street. Also probably dangerous but in a very different way, especially depending on location. That's mostly life-threatening in Republican-controlled states. Drag racing on public streets, nowadays, unfortunately. Urban exploration. It's straight up illegal trespassing wherever you go and the places themselves are super unsafe. We ran a photography contest at our university called Grit and Beauty. A student who wanted to participate in the contest broke into an old warehouse to take pictures. He fell through the floor and broke his back. My ex-fiancée got into this because one of her friends was an urban photographer. It's cool, I get it, but it's dangerous as fuck in the city we lived in. Who knows who or what you'd run into in the wrong building. We're not together anymore obviously, but I did find out a few years after the fact that she stopped going because, well, her friend got assaulted/stabbed/robbed/hospitalized and summarily arrested, all in one night. Called it. Damn glad they learnt their lesson, I guess. Ground proximity wingsuit base jumping is about as dangerous as it gets. It's one of very few activities where the likelihood of dying each time you participate actually increases. Normally the more experienced you get, the less chance you have of dying each time you do the activity. Not in this case. It's believed that it's largely because as people get more experience they don't get the same rush, so they push the limits. But the consequences of any sort of mistake tend to be fatal, so you don't get to learn from your mistakes. There's no better way to die doing what you love than being into ground proximity wingsuit base jumping. Are people who do this stuff just suicidal? The same with people who do stupid parkour or bike tricks on the edge of a building, or free climbing a mountain. Nobody cares or is impressed. Are they just toying with suicide? I mean that seriously. I can't understand why anyone does these things, including traditional skydiving. What's the point? Full contact sports. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a terrible thing. This includes young people playing tackle football, among many other things. ETA, as several commenters have rightfully pointed out, a sport doesn't have to be full contact to be dangerous, just a high likelihood of head injuries. Gymnastics, cheer, anything. One concussion can easily be one too many. Greater than full contact sports. The life expectancy of boxers, wrestlers, and football players is insanely lower than the average person. My spouse used to do SCA heavy combat, wearing full armor and hitting each other with rattan sticks. I'm very glad he switched to fencing instead. It doesn't even have to be a high contact sport. I once had a 16-year-old patient who's had multiple concussions from gymnastics, 5+. She became so sensitive to head trauma that we met after she bonked her head getting out of a vehicle. It wasn't a hard hit, but now she has the full range of concussion symptoms again. Her mom shrugged and told me she doesn't want to quit gymnastics. What can I do? It was hard not to react negatively to her mother's complete apathy to the situation. Drugs. I don't think that's a hobby. Anything can be a hobby if you try hard enough. Motorbike road racing in general and the Isle of Man TT specifically. Greater than between 1907 and 2022. There have been 155 fatalities during official practices or races on the Snaefell mountain course, and 265 total fatalities. This number includes the riders killed during the Manx Grand Prix and Clubman TT race series of the late 1940s/1950s. In 2016, 5 riders died on the course during official practices or races. The TT is blood sport. I love motorcycle racing more than most, but there's nothing fun about watching someone pancake into a wall at 180 miles per hour. I'll stick to MotoGP. It's dangerous at times, but it's not suicidal. The sidecar maniacs have entered the chat. The deadliest year was 2005, when 11 people died. 3 riders and 1 marshal died during the June race, and 6 riders and 1 course bystander died during the Manx Grand Prix in August/September 2005. Since 1937, the only year in which races were held but no fatalities occurred was 1982. Holy smokes. I acknowledge that some people love the adrenaline and dangerous sports/hobbies, but this is as close to suicidal as you can get. If you complete this race even once, it's worth to retire and just know that you've danced with the devil and lived to tell the tale. It's mind-boggling how those are people with families that love them and wait for them to return safe from the race. I've seen an interview of someone, I think at Joe Rogan's podcast, and the guy explained that he worked in the pits there and just couldn't handle the weight of informing the families that someone pulverized himself yet again at the track. My hat is off to those people that are capable of living life on the edge. I respect them, but I truly cannot say I understand them. Extreme ironing. Vintage internet right here. I did extreme ironing and was one of the early pioneers. I was in the 2004 mockumentary, Extreme Ironing, Pressing for Victory as the creator of Urban Housework. I have ironed at Area 51, AMA. I am honestly not really sure what I was expecting, and was almost scared to look at the link, but it is just literally persons pressing cloths in dangerous places, like mountains and crap. Lol. Lol. Motorcyclists. Almost every month one of my friends in the group die. Large group? About half the risk of riding motorcycles comes down to a rider's decisions. Speed, lack of safety gear, and alcohol are causal factors for a huge number of accidents and fatalities. You can't control other people or make it as safe as driving a car, but if you're losing multiple friends to motorcycles, I've got questions about how they ride. And motorcyclists are always fussing about look twice, share the road, etc. Asshole, I'm in my lane going the speed limit, and looked 4 times and you literally weren't in view, then zip past me going 150 in a 65 while weaving in and out and completely ignoring lane lines. Who's the one causing the danger? Gambling, especially now that sports betting is so popular. My gambling philosophy is that it should be hard to do. You should have to go somewhere and physically make a bet to gamble. With cash, gambling through an app is too easy. It has infested video games targeted at kids, but hey, more profits for the 1%, so who cares? Free running on skyscrapers, I hate those videos. Yo bro, get a sweet pic of me hanging off this thing. Oh, that kid that died doing pull-ups off a crane. Horrific. Is that the same one where the guy doing the pulls-ups could only do 4 at a time, but someone super chatted him like $1,000 to do 1 more? The guy attempted to do so, but instead fell off the thing. River rafting. My old boss did it nearly every week and would come back with stories about how his raft tipped over and he almost died getting sucked into an eddy or horribly injured by being smashed into the rocks. Was always super enthusiastic about it. My brother has been a rafting guide for about a decade. There's only been 1 death on the river he works on in that time, and that was another guide in a kayak, doing things they would never let a raft with guests do. It depends heavily on the river, of course. There are 1 to 2 spots where they just get out and walk around an eddy that would otherwise be dangerous. Some of those stories are probably embellished a bit. You get a group of college guys in a raft, the guide is probably going to flip them on purpose, in a relatively safe spot of course, while talking up the dangers of everything. It's what they want and part of the story, but it's entirely intentional and pretty safe. Did you like your boss, or did you encourage him to keep chasing that high until he died? Bull riding. Add the running of the bulls to that. I still don't get people who do this. Like the bull is like a cow on cocaine with horns that will tore you apart in seconds and make you fly over the safety fence like a toddler. I get that it's a sport, but fishing is a sport too. When was the last time you heard someone getting thrown over the fence like a toddler by a salmon? My family is from Montana, and at this point I'd call it a cultural thing. My 5-year-old nephew does mutton busting. Bull riding but with a sheep. It's actually kinda cute when it's just sheep and toddlers. Horse riding. My old primary school teacher lost her daughter because of a horse riding accident. Daughter was practicing jumps, and when they were coming over a jump, the daughter had reached forward to pat her horse for a good job, lost balance on the landing, fell and broke her neck. Gone from a split-second accident. Nearly all the riders I know have injuries of some kind from riding. Neighbor had a horrific broken arm because she walked between 2 horses who snapped at each other. Multiple broken toes and feet from horses misplacing their hooves. Lots of back problems and joint issues from falls and knocks and the like. Horses can be sweet, but they are just so big. I was holding the lead rope for one of my friend's mares as she grazed, and the mare got spooked by something and bolted a couple feet, grazed me lightly with her side and sent me flying. I think you kind of have to get into horses young to be able to forget how easily they could hurt you, because the older I get the more I'm happy to just watch them on the other side of the fence. Lamau. Underratedly dangerous sport that kids do in droves. Interested to know the stats? I did it as a kid, but they put you on little ponies, not the cartoon. Not big horses. They're very tame and gentle. I got put off big horses when a stallion bucked in my granddad's face and missed him by an inch. He didn't bat an eyelid though. After getting kicked in the nuts 1 too many times in RDR2, I'm honestly a little nervous about getting close to a horse IRL. Piloting small aircraft. Mortality rate about the same as motorcycles. I have a PPL and do it, but accept the additional risk. Oh hey, that's me. Autoerotic asphyxiation. Damn, you beat me to it. No, beat me to it. Breathtakingly dangerous. Mushroom hunting. What kind of gun do you need to hunt shrooms? Just imagine how many people had to die for humanity to even get the knowledge of which mushrooms were okay to eat. I'd think at least 3. CTLF piano. Oh God, what a relief. You do stand the risk of dying of loneliness. Nerd/S I wish I learned to play when I was younger. Competitive eating. I wonder if they barf that shit up afterwards? I can't imagine what 70 plus hot dogs in a couple minutes would do to your system. It impressive but damn. I got the shits after 3:70 I'll be dead. Mountain climbing. Especially free solo climbing. I think op means by mountain climbing is climbing those huge ones like Everest, while rock climbing with safety gear is very safe. As for free soloing, there is a saying, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Only free solo and maybe trad the normal climbing with a rope is very safe if you do it correct. Rock fishing. People die on a regular basis in Australia rock fishing. Granted, they're literally all Korean, but there's a salient lesson in there for all immigrants that didn't learn to swim as children. I'll second that. I fish rock jetties in New Jersey, extremely dangerous. I'll add small boat offshore fishing. Sometimes people just don't come back. I'm totally dumb and thought it was fishing with rocks. Like, how could that be super deadly? Looked it up. Oh. Fishes throw the rocks back. Free solo climbing. My life insurance questionnaire asked about aviation, martial arts, skydiving, and racing. The money guys need to know which tells me that's the biggest risk from a hobby perspective. I had to get a special life insurance policy that would cover aviation, GA, not commercial. For a guy that is 40 plus, I didn't even need have a medical done for a multi-million-dollar policy. The actuarial tables probably showed that I'm more likely to auger and then have a heart attack. Surprisingly, it was only marginally more expensive than a non-GA policy. There's a life insurance company out of Texas that asks if you're a rodeo clown. Rodeo/bull riding. Okay. Rodeo clown. Denied. Wow. None of mine are in here or any of the ones I jumped to, but I guess that's institutionalized in me now. Guess what I do for a living from these dangerous hobbies? Curing meats, fermenting foods, cheese making, bladesmithing, home distilling. Do you live in the year 1650? I didn't think Reddit was a thing then. Ren Fair organizer. Climbing Everest and other 8K plus mountains. Annapurna for sure. Drinking/drugs while participating in physical/outdoor hobbies. I didn't realize for a while why people liked hiking/camping so much. Turns out they're drunk a lot of the time. This makes it make more sense why so many get lost or injured. I don't know what outdoors people you talk to, but they sound like a wild bunch, haha. Not that I haven't been drunk/stoned on a hike before, but that's a really unusual occurrence. I do blacksmithing and climbing. Some of us are just asking to get really hurt or burn the house down. Base jumping. Certainly dangerous, but the most fun I've ever had. Sword swallowing. We are a rare breed, mainly because we're insane and it can kill very quick if you fuck up. I'm a fire eater and have wanted to learn sword swallowing for years now, but finding a teacher where I live is impossible. We have 2 sword swallowers in the country, so I was told by them it's best to go to Coney Island and learn there. It's such a dying art and I don't want to see it go. Apart from it being used as a performance piece, how does sword swallowing become a hobby that you just do in your spare time? Like, what about the experience makes it so interesting that you keep coming back and doing it again and again? The thrill of it. Same as skydiving. It's fucking dangerous if it goes wrong, but it's a lot quicker to do in your spare time than faffing about and having to book a plane and such. Drinking. At what point does drinking turn into a hobby? I'm trying to skirt that line but not cross it. Casual sex. Stuffing random things inside themselves. Storm chasing. Why casual sex? Because they're not professionals. Cave diving. Getting married to crazy people. That's considered a hobby? Ah yes, my father was excellent at this. Miss you, Dad. Pranking the wife. Warhammer. I'm financially destitute. Surprised horse riding isn't mentioned more here. Nothing like riding a 500 kilograms plus flight animal with a mind of its own and the full capability to end your life with one kick. Unless you get ran over, I think most people could handle a horse's kick. So far I have gotten my ass kicked by an ostrich, a Malaysian tapir, a cow, a pawnee and a turkey, and am fine. Ostrich is the worst by far though. Every kick feels like a punch from Mike Tyson. I work with horses professionally and have seen firsthand that a kick to the head can be fatal, as well as riders dying / becoming paralyzed as a result of falls. I think a lot of people underestimate how dangerous horses really are.